Schuster hanging out with us one more week for a great time as our special guest host. Welcome one more time to the C, Sister Susie.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. I am grateful for every opportunity we get together and talk about the issues. Nothing is more important than the conversations that we can keep having. Without these conversations, we will go nowhere. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to learn alongside you.
Yeah, no, I think we're all learning together. And, certainly these are such perilous times. We have all these colliding pandemics and crises that are happening at the highest levels. But we can't forget what's happening on the streets. We can't forget what's happening literally every day in communities all across the country. And obviously, the shooting of Brother Jacob last night in the state of Wisconsin has just been making its rounds, and it is just a terrible video archive captured of another Black man being shot 7 times in the back by a police officer. And the most terrible part of it, not most, but one of the terrible parts of it is his children were right there in the car watching this happen. I just can't understand for the life of me why police officers feel so afraid or hateful that they are willing to do this level of damage to somebody without any recourse happening.
What I don't understand, Pastor Mike, is at this point, these officers know that they are being scrutinized. They know that the windows of the world are looking at them. They know in the wake of Ferguson, in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, they know that people are looking at the police and looking to defund them, wondering about inner racism within the police department. Why on God's earth? As we saw, it wasn't like this is not a man who was threatening them. I have no idea. But also, when you say what you said about their children being there, I saw the video a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, of a woman being pulled from her car, and it was in the South, and her children were put on the floor, they were put on the ground. Children, 6 years old, 8 years old, crying for their parents with being held down and restrained. How any police officer can do that to a child is beyond me. And as a mother, I saw the video last night and I was sickened, not just for that man, as you said, but for his children. They will never get over that.
Yeah, I think this is part of the great challenge we have right now is obviously there appears to be a sense of impunity that police officers have. They know that they 9 out of 10 times nothing will literally happen to them. Obviously, they don't care about the impact this has on not just the individual but families. And this is why a lot of us feel like we have to abolish this system of policing and start over again. The idea that our tax dollars can be used at 30, 40, 50, 60% to fund this kind of violence is just, I just don't understand how any of us can sit by and keep allowing this to happen. It's just terribly upsetting. And as a victim and survivor of police violence, just watching these things over and over and over again. I can't get some of these images and the cries out of my mind. It's just a terrible reality. And so I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, I think, the police department's going to have to really become less, they got to become more humble about their role in the community. They have to realize that they can't carry on this way and expect people to have confidence in anything that they're doing. And I just think, it's just a terrible reality. I don't know.
The other thing that I think we have to investigate is that we consider racism to be mostly in the Deep South. And we've seen the worst episodes in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And we have to really examine what the American psyche is. It's no longer, oh, sure, it's Alabama, it's Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. We're looking now at centric states. And that's something else that I think is very chilling. I also think, Pastor Mike, without the opportunity to engage with you on a regular basis, I'd see it in the news It's the conversations that we have, interracial conversations, that will have more and more of us learn how to react to this and what to do. And we need more of this conversation, not just the two of us, but we're grateful we can share it and with all of your followers out there. But this has to be embraced. This is not a Black issue. This is not a Black issue. We can talk about Black Lives Matter. That's great, but we have to look at it even bigger. This is not a Black issue. This is an American issue. And the fact that that man was dragged the way he was and shot the way he was, and his children were subjected to a trauma that they will never recover from, is an American issue. And that will be, as we look at what it is today, the beginning of the RNC convention, and we listen to what they say and we see who comes out in support of them over the next 4 days, we realize it's more and more important than ever before to put in those at the helm of power, those who are open to change within the racial structure.
Yeah,
and what we are, forget it.
And it has to be people who have a sense of doing it quickly as well. I think the reality too long has been that the suffering of Black folks, or the suffering of immigrants, or the suffering of Muslims, we have allowed people to have to carry the brunt of this suffering alone. Anti-Semitism, Jewish folk, LGBTQ folks. You just go down the line of people who experience persecution or oppression, and people don't really feel it to be their problem until it hits them personally. But we have to believe that if we don't deal with these issues, this country is going to tear apart at the seams. It's kind of already happening in some places. But I do see and hope that the solidarity that is happening among those directly impacted, and the compassion and empathy that is happening across social difference lines, that in and of itself will help us be able to kind of get over, or at least build enough consensus. So when people do get in office, hopefully, I know a lot of us are supporting the Biden-Harris ticket, but we got governors, we got prosecutors, we got mayors, all these folks are the ones that actually will determine if these shootings that are happening locally really, really shift and change. In as much as we hope the president and the vice president make a change federally, the reality is mayors and prosecutors and governors and city council members have to vote in ways that hold these systems accountable and radically change them. And it has to be a multiracial effort. But I just hope that the suffering of Black folks, particularly this family, is not just kind of becoming a desensitized reality. Me and Steve Kerr were talking about it actually a little bit ago, just about, he said similar to what you said, like white folks have to really keep pushing to make this a majority of the country issue, and not, people of color kind of in our silos trying to raise our voice. And that's a little bit of, I think, the excitement of the show we have today. We got a pretty diverse group of folks here, that span the diversity of the country. And we're excited to bring them on. Obviously, Mass for the People, as y'all know, we have been gathering every week for the past 5 or 6 months or so, trying to raise money to get free personal protective equipment into the jails, the prisons, the neighborhoods that are most directly impacted by the still growing and terrible pandemic called COVID-19. Coronavirus is off the charts in states across the country, as children and families are being asked to come to school in some places, and folks don't have PPE and don't have the right cleansing equipment happening. Our work is as important as ever, and I just want to appreciate all of you that have been donating. Last week, we collected almost $25,000 in donations. Yeah, people have been sending in checks, and foundations been sending in checks. Folks are donating online, so please keep donating. If it's on your heart, know that the dollars that you're donating, we are literally buying masks and producing sanitizer. We're shipping out, I think this week, about 250,000 masks to New York, to Chicago, to Houston, Texas, to Orlando, to Buffalo, New York. We're sending these masks out. The sanitizer is going out as well. And so I just want y'all to know, as y'all give, we buying the sanitizer and that mask, and we sending it right out. So please go to livefreeusa.org and help us keep trying to respond to this. But as we get into the electoral season, and all these incidences are happening, we're going to expand our conversation a little bit, as Susie has said, to try to bring some voices in to help us think a little bit more deeply about the issues that concern us. And so, Susie, we got the great Scott Butnick. He is in the room. We're going to invite him to come on in, and I've known of Scott and his work for some time here in the state of California. He is one of the founders of the anti-recidivism coalition called ARC. I remember meeting or hearing of Scott's work in a California endowment meeting. He was talking about shutting down all the prisons and turning them into hospitals. I said,
community colleges.
Yeah, community college. I was like, who is this guy? This guy's got a radical idea, and I learned to know that he's an American film producer. He has financed many films, but has also been one of the most innovative folks in criminal justice reform and storytelling. So welcome to the show, Scott. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Pastor. You've always been a hero of mine. Love you. Appreciate you having me, man.
Oh yeah. Now you and Susie were boy in the pre-room, green room.
Oh, hey, I already have my research team on it right now. We're on this, Susie. We're gonna make some important movies.
I'm gonna step out the way and just let y'all go back because it was good. It was must-see TV for me.
We're going to get some deals after this show. We're going to start producing some content that I want my kids to watch. Are you kidding? This is like my favorite thing to talk about.
Let's go.
Well, talk a little bit about your journey, Scott, because you came to this issue obviously in a bit of an unorthodox manner, at least appears to me. But you've used your influence and your creativity and your connections to do just fascinating stuff, from helping bring concerts into jails to producing movies, and just talk a little bit about your journey into addressing issues of racial justice and criminal justice reform.
Yeah, Pastor Mike. I mean, like when you meet the folks that are in this system, there's really no other reaction. It was 2004. I just made a movie called Old School, and a friend of mine on that movie invited me down to Sylmar Juvenile Hall. Walked into a juvenile hall on a Saturday morning and met 15 kids facing life in prison, 14, 15, 16 years old. And no joke, Mike, I turned to the kid next to me and I said, "How was your week?" And his first response, the first line of that day was, "It was a really bad week. I just got sentenced to 300 years to life in prison."
Wow.
And David was 15 years old.
Wow.
And I said, "What happened?" And he said, "I was with my friend who shot the victim in the butt. The victim was in and out of the hospital in a day. And for standing next to him and not touching the gun, I was given 300 years to life." And it does not take a genius to realize that every kid around that table is brown and black. And if they had my skin tone, or I was their father and I was paying for a lawyer, David would get probation. Standing next to someone that shot someone in the butt.
Right.
Because David had experienced foster care, and because David had grown up in poverty, and because he did not have my skin tone and had a public defender who was not one of the best, David was going away for the rest of his life. And I could not get it through my head why we would sentence a child to die in prison.
Wow.
When I know who I was at 15 was not who I was at 20 or 25 or 30 or 35. If you don't have the knowledge that kids can change, then you obviously are not a parent, because all kids can change. And I said to those kids on that day, and let's be honest, it's like this was also hurt people, right? There wasn't one kid at that table that had not gone through so much trauma and pain and physical abuse and sexual abuse and everything having to do with poverty, right? Before they ever made the decision to hurt anybody, right? And it was so clear that if the things that were done for me when I was a kid growing up in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, as the son of a doctor and a teacher, then all of these kids could achieve everything within their dreams. And so I said to them on that day, like, I'm in, like, let's go fight. If you're willing to make these changes, I'm willing to be there the whole way. Let's go. And that changed my life. In fact, that in that same class, there was a kid named Adam who was going to prison for 6 years for a robbery. And a little tiny kid, looked like he was 11. His hands were shaking as he read his paper on forgiveness. And afterwards he said, can I take your number? When I get out, I'm going to need help. This kid, 6 years to the day, gets out, calls me. I'm in pre-production on The Hangover. I said, come down, $12 an hour, internship, kick ass, work your ass off, 6 a.m. tomorrow, be early. Adam shows up at 3:30 in the morning. The Teamsters, he beats the drivers to work, out hustles everybody, attitude of gratitude, so happy to be there, so thankful. At the end of it, my prop master's like, this is the greatest kid I've ever hired. I'm taking him to Iron Man. I'm putting him in the union. He's going to $48 an hour. Wow. And now Adam's in the union. His 4 brothers are in the union. Between the 5 of them, they make $500,000 a year, and they just bought their family a house.
Wow.
So this is like my double life.
Yeah. And it's so important to know that those stories, proximity, experience, those are the things that literally change people's minds. It is not facts and figures. Facts and figures are important, but what you do, what Susie does, what many others do around film and storytelling, it helps shrink the world and make people have a totally different experience. I'm always loving to hear your journey into it. Susie, go ahead. Y'all fan out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, Scott, when you're talking about this, and I'm thinking about, of course, the movie that you did, Just Mercy, and I'm thinking about the 5 or 6 characters in that book that you're practically describing. Kids who had suffered abandonment, kids who had mental disorders, kids who were sexually abused, kids who are mentally and physically abused, and then they're out and they are next to somebody who commits a crime, and they are spending the rest of their life behind bars. And that was the incredible story of your movie about how a lawyer came down to the South and devoted himself to getting these kids' sentences overturned, which took years and years and years. It is so important for kids to watch this movie, to read the book and then watch the movie. We did both in this book club. We read the book first, and then we watched the movie. And the more I can pound that into my kids' head to learn that at a young age, because of what you're doing and how you're exposing my kids and all the other kids who have access to your movie, they will grow up with a different understanding and a different appreciation for social justice. But Scott, you're right. We weren't exposed to this. How are we supposed to know it's happening? We can be highly educated. We can go to the greatest schools. We have an idea, but until you sit down and watch Just Mercy, you don't understand what these kids are going through. When you walk away from that book, Pastor Mike, as I know you've read it, when you walk away, your head is blown, your empathy and your compassion is on fire, and you want to learn more. And Scott, what you're doing is necessary. It's required curriculum for kids. And I would push that to anybody. And I'm grateful that you did Old School and Hangover because I love them both. But Just Mercy changed my relationship with my child.
Man,
so,
that's unbelievable to hear. I'm so honored to be with you too, Susie.
Well, thanks. Well, Pastor Mike and I, we even the other day, and this is what we talk about a lot. If we can't challenge each other with conversations, and those are the conversations that you bring up in Just Mercy. If Pastor Mike and I can't have a conversation about social justice, about our different experiences in life and how we approach issues, how do we expect anybody else to do it? We have the access, we have the education, and we have the means to communicate. So many people who don't have that, at least they have your movies. And that's why your movies are so important.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'll tell you this, is like when I was running my nonprofit ARC, in those 5 years, I mean, I just learned no matter who I would bring into a prison, no matter how tough on crime they were, conservative they were, law enforcement, whatever, they could have thought the same thing for 60 years of their life. When they went into a prison and they sat with human beings, and thank you guys so much for sending all this PP in to protect human beings. When they sat with human beings, they changed. Hardcore Republican, law enforcement, victim of crime, liberal, whatever you want to label somebody, they sat with a human being who was a transformed person, and they changed their views on the criminal justice system. And I knew you can't bring everyone into prison, but you can bring deeply humanizing stories, empathy generating stories that literally rewire people's brains into the movie theater. And then once they see that film, give them pathways for engagement into the issues after that. And it was just so beautiful because, as Pastor Mike knows, it's like we had an enormous faith-based campaign around the film. And it wasn't just like we did a huge thing with Black churches, but we also screened for the National Association of Evangelicals, and they became our partner, and we did major screenings with white evangelical churches. Some of our greatest work right now is in Oklahoma, a place where what is the largest incarcerator in the world, where every county voted for President Trump, where the governor did the largest single-day commutation of sentence of any governor in the history of the United States, and he's a white evangelical Republican Christian. Now, there's a lot that needs to be fixed in Oklahoma, but when you can bring people proximate,
that's right,
to human suffering, as Brian Stevenson, our hero, always says, they end up changing, and they end up changing the world. And I really believe that's the case with film. And Susie, I think your explanation and your experience with your child really proves that.
I mean, I'm sitting here engaged in this conversation, and yet I'm going back to so many of the characters. And this is 2 months ago. And now I'm going back to the characters, and I'm reliving some of the horrible moments within the book and within your movie. And I'm grateful that Pastor Mike had you on. It's a constant reminder that you can't disengage, right, Pastor Mike, that you have to stay present. We saw this last night. We saw this, in every single shooting that we see across the country. We see this actually, ironically, in California's fight against the wildfires, because we know now that so many I had no idea that firefighters were pulled from within the prison ranks to fight fires, and that we are so far behind on our firefighters because of COVID.
Then, by the way, then they fight their fires $1 a day. They risk their lives. Some of them lose their lives. They become heroes of the community. People are coming up to them as inmates and saying, "We just baked you brownies. Thank you for saving my house." They've gone from like a perpetrator, gang member, criminal to hero. They become the best firefighters out there as wildland firefighters, and they get out, and because they have a felony on their record, they cannot fight fires. If that is not modern day slavery, I don't know what is. You have risked your life for basically free. You've saved communities, and you get out, and you're now great at this, and you can't be hired to fight a fire. Now, let me tell you this. I brought that to Governor Brown right before he left office, and he created the first of its kind training facility called the Ventura Training Center that ARC now runs with CAL FIRE and CDCR and the California Conservation Corps. And now we got 60 men right there right now that are all in training and becoming CAL FIRE firefighters. It's the first ever, but we need 10 Ventura Training Centers. We need 1,000 people a year.
And see, this is where we have to keep pushing ourselves to appreciate that the solution to systemic and structural racism aren't programs that are one-offs. They are systemic and structural changes, right? Because the idea that these individuals who are incarcerated, who are risking their lives to help with the firefighting, the idea that a law is prohibiting them from being able to be a firefighter when they come out means that the solution to that is to change the law.
And guess what, Pastor? We this year, Assemblywoman Eloise Reyes, who represents, I think, up towards the Chino area, she has a bill, and I'm gonna get you the bill number in a second, to expunge folks' records who fought fires while they were on the inside. So not only would they be able to be hired as firefighters and EMTs, but they would not have the crime on their record for anything else they want to do. We also need to take this step further, because almost every fire department, the barrier is that almost every fire department, your city of LA, any city fire department basically says you need your EMT's license to become a firefighter. Well, guess what? The EMT certificate, if you have a felony, you can't get it. So if you can't get the certificate and you can't be a city firefighter, that then excludes many people. So yes, it's not just about programs. It is about changing the laws that disenfranchise people.
Yeah, but it's I just want to put a fine point on this, because the irony right now that Northern California is literally on fire, and we don't have enough people to fight the fires, because the people who can fight the fires have been released early because of the pandemic, which was a part of our advocacy because folks didn't have PPE to keep them alive while they were in. I mean, it's just the ways that all of this intersect, right? It just goes to show you that our whole society needs to have a radical, as Dr. King says, a radical revival, a revolution of values.
Yes,
and prioritizing.
That's the right quote for this.
Yeah, man, it's so important.
By the way, I just want to say, I just pulled up a text from Assembly Member Eloise Reyes. Assembly Bill 2147 is on its way to the California Senate floor.
All
so
right.
It'll go to its final vote and then go to the governor this week.
Assembly
Bill 2147.
All right.
Pastor Mike, this plays right into what you said in the open, that we have our eyes on the presidential campaign. But if you are not paying attention to your local government, you will not have systematic change that we need. If you're not paying attention to who your assemblywoman is or man, if you're not paying attention to your state senator or House representative is, then we will not have change. It just really, it's funny how everything's plugging in today. That's exactly what you were saying in the beginning.
Yeah.
All well and good if we're voting for the presidential election and we all know where we stand. But if you are not paying attention to your locals,
that's right.
Nothing will
change. I think you'll be happy with Just Mercy. This was not just a movie for us. And I can speak for myself, Warner Brothers, Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, Brie Larson, our director, our producers. We wanted to make sure that this thing that moved you and your kids so much made real impact. So talk about local. We went and we screened the film for 15 governors. Wow. And local elected leaders, legislators, etc. I got to sit with governors as they saw the film and then sat with them when the lights came up at an empty movie theater with them and their staff and say, what bills are we going to run this year to reduce mass incarceration in your state? And now we're running bills with 9 of those governors and legislators in those states. And we also were able, amongst many other things, to create an initiative called Play for Justice, where we partnered with Kristen Ingram and the NBA and brought multiple screen Just Mercy for probably over 15, 20 NBA teams. And then the teams that wanted to dive deeper actually came inside prisons with us, where the players balled up with the folks inside, had deep healing circles, conversations, and now those teams have adopted this as their main issue. And the teams have also adopted those facilities and are now continuing engagement in them. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks and Caron Butler and the team, Giannis, everyone for coming in, to the LA Lakers, to the Cleveland Cavaliers, to the Sacramento Kings, and to the Portland Trailblazers. Some really cool things happening for long-term impact. I got the TV on the NBA Finals over here, and I just didn't want to end here without saying that the NBA has really stepped up their game.
Yeah, man, they are, I think, the creme de la creme. Them and the WNBA. We're gonna have some WNBA players on next week.
Beautiful.
To talk about their work to get rid of that crazy Georgia senator who's the owner of the Atlanta team.
And I'm from Atlanta.
It's crazy, right? We gonna let you go in a second here, but say 2 things. Kristen just texted me and reminded me that we're all a part of Elect Justice California, which is actually going to be a voter resource guide that we're pulling together with the League of Women Voters. Live Free is putting in on it. Pico California is putting in on it. A whole bunch of a whole bunch of organizations putting in on a local resource guide to help us be able to get these local initiatives on the radar, so folks know to not just vote at the top of the ticket, but vote all the way down. And so I appreciate you coming on, Scott. You are a wonderful, wonderful brother. Keep up the great work. We'll keep cooking offline and doing all the great change that we need to be. And of course, you and Susie can't wait to see the magic y'all gonna pull together to keep the stories alive.
Love you, brother. Susie, great to meet you. This is only the beginning.
Oh, Scott, I'm going to call you after this. What do you think?
I can't wait. Let's go. See you guys.
All right, here we go.
Much love.
Love you too, bro. Thanks again. Well, here we go. You know, Susie connects me with her comrades. I connect her with my comrades, and the world goes round and round and round and round.
Right.
This is Mass for the People, and we are indeed really trying to make a lot of connections tonight. I think, Susie, what you mentioned, certainly just in that interview, that we have to indeed make connections about everything that's happening right now. We can't get bogged down in one issue. Dr. King says it's all interconnected. What affects one indirectly what affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. And we're seeing the evidence of that every day.
By the way, I have to tell you this before, just to embarrass you a little bit, since you mentioned how much that we brought in last week. When you told Michael Irvin that you'd raised $3 million, he almost fell off of his chair. And he called me afterwards. He said, "What is that man doing?" I said, "I told you, he talks and people listen." But I know that I know how you feel about the Niners and how you feel about the Cowboys. But I think you got a huge fan out of Michael Irvin.
Well, I believe me, game. I love ballers. Michael Irvin's a baller. I mean, he was a terror to our teams, but I love Michael Irvin. I remember when Michael Irvin and Deion Sanders started going to TD Jakes' church. It was for a lot of us a big joy. So tell Michael Irvin I'm glad to have been connected with him, and hopefully we'll do a little bit more cooking together, as they say.
Oh, I think he would absolutely love that. And you know, and as for your continuing, your thoughts on having these conversations moving forward, I mean, they're so welcome, and I think you have to understand how much you give to those of us who get to learn from you and with you. And even just doing this Facebook Live and raising money for the people who can't have what we just take for granted. It's a blessing, and it's I feel a lot of gratitude for being able to share in these conversations. So it's great.
Well, the feelings are mutual, and thank you. And obviously, we got a lot of work to do, and we gonna do it together. I'm excited to introduce you to one of my good friends. She's a trailblazer. Melanie Campbell, come on in the room. I believe Melanie Campbell. Hey there.
Hi there, Pastor Mike. Hi, Susie. I've been listening. I've been eavesdropping in. Great conversation.
Yeah, let me do you justice, though, Melanie. So you're the president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and the convener of the Black Women's Roundtable Public Policy Network. You've been in the business for 20 years. You were recognized one of the hardest working sisters in not just show business now, but in the policy space. And you have been one of the main folks behind the scenes, if I can say, pushing the Democratic Party to make sure, and the Biden campaign to make sure that they did right by ensuring a Black woman was selected as the vice president. You are an unapologetic sister that advocates for our people in our community, and I just respect and love you so much. And I've been texting you for months.
I know, it's so crazy.
I was texting the wrong person. Another person was like, "Who is this person texting me?" And so I finally got connected with you. Welcome to Mass for the People.
Awesome to be here. Thank you so much. And Pastor Mike, anytime you need me to show up anywhere, I am fully there. And I like more behind the scenes than the front of the scenes, but sometimes you got to be out front. So I do that. I try to do that a little bit more these days to try to make sure we get our message out, right? Yeah. And push, especially during this time. And Susie, very nice to meet you, sister. And I was listening to you and listening to you all talk about with Scott. I wanted to see if Scott and I may have crossed paths, because I spent several years in Atlanta, Georgia. Oh. Late Maynard Jackson. So I said I was good to hear him talking about that movie. He's right. Just Mercy changed a whole lot of people's. Yes, it did. It was prophetic, the timing and what we're going through now.
Yeah. I'd love for you to get your reflection, both you and Susie. Last week the Democratic National Convention happened, and obviously, a lot of history took place last week. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and so love to get y'all's perspective, Melanie, knowing what we know and how hard it is to get the party at times to do right by Black folks, even though we tend to be the base of the party. What did it feel like last week to just soak in some more I don't know, some more mountains being climbed, and some more what's the word I'm looking for? Benchmarks being overcome. But just Go ahead and free flow a little bit.
And I'll just say from my own personal how it impacted me. I felt seen as a Black woman for the first time, fully seen. I cried. I didn't expect to cry. So everybody I talked to cried. We're like, why are we crying? I don't know why I'm crying. But it just really, my mom passed 3 years ago, and thought about my mom. I thought about all these Black women, and just in that moment, it was more than about the position. It's very important. We break these glass ceilings, right? But it was more to it than that. It's much more to it than that for so many folks and we were pushing it. Yes, we feel like we earned it, but it was more to it than that. And so as a Black woman, just as a sister, it shocked me that I responded the way I did. I wasn't expecting to do that. I was on an interview with a reporter. But so that was my initial response on a personal level.
Yeah.
What I think it is, Melanie. I'll tell you why I think you cried on so many different levels. We're so starved for decency. We're so starved for people with heart and compassion. We're so starved for decency because our politics is so spewed with hatred and division and rhetoric that what we heard just for a couple days, like we saw all of the people who are up on stage fighting against Biden, trying to get the nomination. And they got together and they talked about what made him good and decent. And Joe Biden is many things, but he's a decent person. He's a decent person with compassion and caring. And if he wasn't, and this is what I think I love about the choice. Now, Pastor Mike knows that I'm close to Kamala and have been so for almost 2 decades. So I am over the moon watching someone who I have such respect for take that stage and accept the nomination for the vice president. But what I love about what the choice is, she challenged him. And instead of him walking away from the challenge, he heard it and he took it, and she's next to him because he knows she makes him stronger. It's decency. Both of them are decent, strong, kind people. And Joe Biden, if anybody doesn't know enough about his personal story, if they didn't get enough last week, there's still more ways to hear the story. But decency, I think that's what touched me. I can never know what it feels like to sit in your shoes, but I know what it feels like to sit in my shoes and be horrified by every single day that I turn on the news. And to have my children say, Mom, if you can't protect me from a bully and a bully is the president, how will I ever be protected? And so I cried because I just wanted decency.
The other thing, and I feel that, Susie, what I did like, one of the things I liked most about how they rolled it out was when they were in all the different parts of the country, and seeing just average everyday people and the diversity. And the other part, someone said, when it comes to Kamala Harris, we were pushing for a Black woman for a lot of reasons. One, we think that's the winning ticket in this moment. The other is just to understand that what we saw was diversity. That's what the country is. But yet, outside of President Obama, we've not seen that diversity in that level. So it needs to become not the exception, but the norm.
Yeah.
It's normal to have diversity when you talk about shared power. And so that's the part that we're like, yes, this is, we got through that moment and all of the excitement of it, but I said, but this shouldn't be the exception. This should be the rule. It should happen everywhere because that's what this nation is really made of. So if that's the case, and then as women, and then as a Black woman, I'm saying we're nowhere near where we need to be. 4 years ago, this never have happened. And I'm just speaking since Pastor Mike knows I have a C3 hat, but so I have to make sure I say it the right way. I'm just saying from an analytical standpoint, right? that should never have happened in 2016, but it did. And so here we are 4 years later, going through what we've been going through for these since March the 12th is what I remember is this moment when we realized that in my office we were going to be gone for 2 weeks. It turns into 5 months because of COVID-19 and the lack of leadership in this moment. But also what we've been going through with what's continuously happening with the killing of Black and brown bodies, right? And it's all of these things, the convergence. That's what it's a tsunami of things that are happening that can push this country forward. We've been in moments before, or we can reverse back. So then we've got 71. I have my calendar up here. I keep two numbers, November 3rd, and then when's the first vote happen? First vote happens in North Carolina. North Carolina in 19 days.
19 days. First vote in North Carolina.
Right? So 19 days, 70 days, 71 days. So like a laser beam. So I just feel like what happened last week was a plus, right, for the nation to see all of that diversity. We know that everything's not all rosy either. We got to keep pushing, and there's no such a thing as having power and not using it. So we have to push candidates, Biden, Harris, anybody needing our vote, right? Personally, I support that ticket personally, right? But we also know that there's more. You have a big tent, you have to keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as we close out here, just talk a little bit about the need for us to make sure we target our voter engagement with low propensity voters. I know that's been a lot of your work, and you convene, man. Melanie convenes tables like during the off-year election cycles in DC. She brings formerly incarcerated people, young people, women. I mean, she brings folks to DC to give them a taste of what does it mean to do the advocacy side. But I think, Melanie, you can say a few words about that is not the beginning of their engagement. You actually engage them or help folks engage them in the voting side. Talk a little bit about the importance of that part of the way we engage people.
Well, I used to spend my days in DC and Virginia by night, but I'm a Southern girl. I'm from Florida.
I know that's right.
And so we spend a lot of our work actually in the South, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the key for us is really knowing that it's very obvious that we have to worry about voter suppression coming from a lot of angles. Mm-hmm. And so I've really been focused like a laser bee to get everybody pushing to make sure that we know we have to have election protection, but we have to have more than that. Yeah. We have to make sure that, because post office, attack on the post office. I'm very active, and I've been very active with the Grand Alliance and really kind of fight for the post service with Danny Glover and a lot of us for several years now with labor. And so we know this has been a problem even before what's going on now, the attack on the postal service to another level. So people are going to be afraid. So we need trusted voices, Pastor Mike, like you and Susie, everybody getting folks to get what we call get vote ready. Like the simple message is to say, you need to get your absentee ballot yesterday. You heard that throughout that convention last week, right? From on high names to names we didn't know, because it's as simple and complicated as that, because people tend to wait. Mm-hmm. I can say this about 45. He said what he was going to do for 4 years ago, and he's saying what he's going to do now. And that's, if I can't win in a righteous way, I'm going to steal it. So if somebody tells you what they're going to do, believe them. And that's what he's telling us. So have a way, side of the aisle folks are on, the right to vote. I was mentored by so many civil rights folks, and because I spent so many years in Atlanta, so you think about, you hear about Congressman John Lewis, and so we got to get in good trouble. That's the bottom. We got to get in good trouble. We need poll workers. Yeah. We need all the folks out in California to really help elevate that message, Pastor Mike, that folks need to be poll workers. We got to show up. Y'all know Barbara Skinner showing up at the polling places, because they're already telling us they're going to send goons. I was in Florida in 2000 when they ran folks out of Florida, when they sent all those goons in to stop the count in South Florida, in Miami, and in West Palm Beach. I was down there with Reverend Jesse Jackson, and look, we didn't have enough of us progressives down there. They had all the goons. They had paid these folks. I'm expecting that kind of thuggery, if you will, for lack of a better word, to go on at the polling place. So we're going to do what we need to do now. People need to get their absentee ballots now. Make sure you early vote. Know if they purged you because of them ripping apart the Voting Rights Act. So, needless to say, let me calm down. my bottom line is that we're not going to allow them to steal our vote on our watch, but
That's
we need
right.
all of us together in unity.
That's right. The great Melanie Campbell. I'm so appreciative for you coming on and joining us. Tell folks how to get in touch with you, how to support you. Melanie needs
Yes, they can go to unitycampaign.org, UNITY campaign.org. But before I go, Pastor Mike, I want to make sure that masks for the people. You know, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I pledge $5. I'll send you $5.
All right.
And support that because we need that because our folks, we're going to need masks and gloves and PPEs and everything else and make sure folks are able to stay in the line when they go to vote for those who won't vote early.
Well,
can I ask you one question, Melanie, before you go? How do people volunteer if they want to volunteer at a polling station? Like, how do you do that?
They can go to our site, unitycampaign.org. They can, and we'll connect them. There's Power the Polls, and that's the partner organization. We're going to go straight to Power the Polls, and or they can go to unitycampaign.org. They can volunteer to be a poll worker. They can volunteer to be a poll monitor. We'll connect them if they want to work election protection. But we need an army of foot soldiers for democracy is what we're calling them. New era foot soldiers for democracy to make sure that we protect our right to vote.
Come on now. Unitycampaign.org. Let's make it happen. And we're gonna send us addresses where you need us to send you masks, and we'll send you a good chunk of them because we need that on the front lines. I love you so much, Melanie.
All right.
Thank you for joining us
on the other side of victory.
Yes, indeed. All right. Melanie Campbell, she's great, Susie. I'm telling you. Woo.
Oh my God, I love her. And by the way, thank God she said that because it wouldn't even have occurred to me. Oh yeah, we need volunteers this year. Makes me good. Now we all have to kind of get off of our collective, whats, and start thinking about how we volunteer that day. I'm so grateful that Melanie came on.
Yeah. They have all kind of great concrete ways to make sure we get this done. All right, bringing us to a storming finish and a close. I'm so excited to have this amazing young brothers on the show. They are from the Bay Area. Amen. They're part of my neck of the woods. Los Rocas is in the room. Come on in the room, fellas. These are some Panamanian superstars. Got our Bay Area vibe cracking. Now, these are some of the most emerging artists. They're fusing all kinds of great hip hop at the mix of hip hop, reggae, dancehall. They just got nominated for some Grammys, and hopefully they're gonna, put the Bay Area on the map one more time. How about that?
Yeah. We just represent the Afro-Latino movement. We're originally from Panama.
Yeah.
Started making music in the Bay Area about 13 years ago. We started in the youth centers in East Oakland.
Yeah.
So we were given the opportunity, and we just been sharing our message to the world that it don't matter if you're from the ghetto, be proud, and that's what Los Rocas stand for, to be proud of who you are.
Doesn't matter where you come from.
I love that. Don't matter where you come from, be proud of who you are. Now talk a little bit about your time in the Bay Area. Obviously, I was thinking of Panama as a place to move if Donald Trump wins.
Yeah.
I hope y'all got a bed for me over there because you may have a whole lot of.
Yeah, come through. We got plenty of room.
But talk about that fusion. I know that you all have been really working at the fusion of like consciousness. Your work is not just party music, but it's trying to penetrate consciousness and even the Afro-Latina kind of fusion, right? Of making sure that we're not kind of fragmenting ourselves, dividing ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of us coming together.
Yes, being in the Bay Area, our sound, we mix our sound with the original hip hop from right there in the Caribbean sound from Panama. But as far as what we talk about being in the Bay Area, Oakland, I have really taught us to be proud of who we are and do our research and do our history of the ancestors, the people that came before us and all that. we're not no conscious artists, but we talk about what's going on in the community as well as love songs and as well as party songs. Um, we just do it naturally. We just do it
Yeah.
naturally because we feel like as artists, we the mirror of what's going on in our society. So that's we talk about it.
Yeah, so we telling other people's story most of the time. You know what I'm saying? We telling our friends' stories or what things that we might have heard on the news or what's going on. Like on our new album, we got a song that what we talking about Donald Trump, and we say, even though you saying that you putting up a wall, we're gonna get over that wall. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like, we're gonna overcome everything. So it's just like we just talk about how we feel in different times.
Who were the artists that influenced you the most as you guys grew up and as you guys found your own sound?
It's a lot of artists, but like artists like Bob Marley, Tupac, Celia Cruz,
Ismael Rivera,
E40.
Yeah, a lot of our parents music too, like had a message. A lot of the songs that they were listening to.
Ruben Blaze,
La Fania with Hector Lavoe, Willie Colon, all of these artists, and that influenced us too to have a message in our music and to talk about just to inspire our people, because we know how rough it is, and through the music we've been able to travel and get to see other things and have hope. You know what I'm saying? And for us to go, just to inspire, that's what's important for us.
Yeah, I know that you all have been helping to make sure Black Lives Matter or voting and these kind of things are issues that don't just go off the radar of folks. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your Hispanics for Black Lives Matter or your voting, like why it's important to vote? Just share some of those messages that you feel are close to your heart as it relates to those issues.
Yeah, as far as like Black Lives Matter, yeah, that's something we speak about because it's like it could be any of us. It could be us. It could be our sons, our daughters. It could be our cousins. You know what I mean? It could be our friends. And that's something that we've been talking about for a long time. But I feel like the message is really unity. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Really. I feel like that's as cliche as it sounds. I feel like it's unity if we have each other. If you have your neighbor. You don't even gotta like each other. You know what I mean? Like just make sure everything. Make sure. Watch my house when I'm not here. I watch your house when you're not here. We live next to each other. You know what I mean? Yes, it's just as simple as that. I feel like love. Is the answer.
It's trying to get treated fair. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get treated fair.
Yeah. I might not respect your. I'm sorry, but like I might not respect your religion or I mean, I'm not might like your religion, but yes, I'll respect it. And vice versa. You respect what I do. You know what I mean? You don't gotta like it. Just respect each other.
Yeah, I feel like we spend a lot of energy on trying to change people and what it is. And us growing up in our family, like we don't agree all the time, but we love each other. So it's like, you get to realize, all right, you know what? I'm gonna respect you. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? And we have less problems like that. So I feel like that's what's going on in the world. We just I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know like the answer, but I feel like that's one of the answers right there. You know what I mean? Unity, work with each other. Let's compromise. You know what I mean? We in this earth together already. You know what I mean? So let's just compromise. Let's
respect each other. That's it.
Respect each other.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy that something so simple can be so hard, right? I mean, like how hard is it to respect? I love how you say it. We may not like each other, but you watch my house and I watch yours. I mean, like that. I mean, like that just boils it down to just human decency.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is missing right now in our society.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm excited about you all continuing to use your platform and lift your voice. I think that the next generation needs some Afro Latinas like y'all winning Grammys and helping to translate not only the experiences of everyday people, but to keep spreading these positive messages. So I hope that as y'all keep like ascending and your platforms keep growing, that you all keep the Yay area in your heart and the Panama on your sleeve. You know what I'm saying? And represent for the people.
Definitely. And Right now on our website, we got a shirt. You know, this is a brand new design right here.
Okay. Come in the screen more so I can see it. Oh man, that's fire.
Yeah, we got this brand new shirt. 50% of the proceeds goes to the youth organization that we started, you know what I mean, back in 05. So make sure you guys go to our website, losracas.com, and purchase one. Yeah.
losracas.com. And what's the name of your youth program that you started?
It's Youth Uprising.
It was Youth Uprising, and we're part of this other organization called Bump, and then another organization that was called
Youth Speaks.
Youth Speaks.
Youth Movement Records.
Youth Movement Records.
Yeah,
we were all in the mix. We were in Youth Radio in Berkeley.
Yeah, come on, man. Y'all talking about y'all dropping family names over here now, man.
Yeah.
So
like, you know, like we took advantage of our resources, you know, for the youth out there. If you got resources, take advantage of your resources, because a lot of people don't have them, you know. A lot of people don't have them.
Just ask, you know what I'm saying?
And you know, just before I let you go, you mentioned Youth Radio, Youth Uprising, Youth Speaks. Just say a quick word, fellas, about how those organizations literally saved your lives. Because I know where y'all really, you know what I'm saying? Like, we did work with Youth Uprising, we did work with Youth Radio. And sometimes people think the solution to gun violence or crime is to build more prisons and jails and police. Yeah. But the truth is, we need like 100 youth uprisings. We need 100 youth radios. We need 100 youth speaks. So just like how did those programs help literally save y'all lives when y'all was coming up here in the East?
Yeah, man, because those kind of programs, you know, it help you shape what you want to do, what you want to become, you know, and you know, it really give you a place to be, you know. Like, so if you don't have a place to be, you're gonna be in the streets, you know what I mean? Try and look for somewhere to be, you know what I mean? Give you a place to be, and then give you a place to sharpen your tools for whatever you want to become in life. You know, it give you a place to build a community, you know, a healthy community. It does so much for the youth, man.
Yeah, it kept a lot of us out of trouble. It's actually a lot of people that went and became successful from the youth center.
Yeah.
And it was a blessing for us, and that's why we always want to give back to where we came from. You know, it was a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now you know I'm gonna have to ask you for a Bay Area favor on the way out, and just drop me a hot track, drop me a hot verse, a hot bar, a hot Grammy nominated bar on the way out off the screen. Do it for me, fellas.
El pobre sigue pobre y el rico sigue rico. Ya los niños matan y juegan al carrito. ¿Qué estará pasando con la unidad? Ya la paz ni existe en la comunidad. Mucha gente inocente se muere oprimida. Hasta el presidente es un homicida. La cura para el SIDA. Dime dónde está. Para la ignorancia. Tiempo de cambiar.
Area in the area. All right, fellas, love y'all, man. Thank y'all for coming on. This was amazing.
Thank you for having us, Pastor Mike.
Oh man, we rocking. Yeah, we rocking. Listen, I want y'all to go get their records, everybody. Those are some dope brothers, and it all kind of came together on my mind because I remember Youth Uprising, literally right down the street from my house. Now you see me, Susie. This the work I was doing 10 years ago, and I was like thinking I was gonna change the world. You know, like one kid at a time. Those programs literally save people's lives. And that's what we're talking about. We talk about defund the police. We're talking about taking money from these police officers who are willing to shoot somebody in the back and putting it in these kind of programs that are literally so underfunded that we're rubbing pennies together. But you get that kind of talent in the neighborhood if you invest in it. That is, I think, the greatest expression of the work that we're trying to get done. And I'm appreciative to Kristen for bringing them to us, because that really that brought me some life today, and I needed it. I needed a good injection of some hope and memory of what our work is really about.
Well, their talent is overflowing. We see that in all the Boys and Girls Clubs, the talent in music, the talent in art, the talent in athletics. And without a place for these kids to go, these kids get forgotten and left behind. And that's when they turn to crime, or that's when they are brought along. That's what we were saying in the beginning. It's not always a crime.
Right.
It's not always a crime. It's the wrong place at the wrong time with someone with racism in their hearts. And by the way, You said that, oh, I thought I was going to change the world one kid at a time. You did. And now you're changing the world one mask at a time. So don't sell yourself short. That's what I'm here to make sure you don't do.
Right on, right on. Well, I sometimes doing the work nationally, it takes me away from the ability to just really connect with young people, and I think it was just a great opportunity to go into a time machine and just remember that we really can change lives one life at a time, and whether it's what Scott mentioned with his guys that he met and they came out of lockdown, and now 5 of them are working as union stagehands on Marvel movies, buying houses for their family, or these young guys or sisters coming through. I mean, that is really what the work is all about, and that's what Match for the People is about. I always tell people you can't help folks if they already dead. And so our work is about keeping people alive. We want people to be alive. We want them to be free. We want them to have everything that they can have in order to experience the genius that is latent in their life. And so as y'all continue to support Mass for the People, we're going to keep coming back week after week. I know for sure we're keeping Mass for the People going at least through the election. Because we want to make sure that this show is going to give us some of the best and brightest coming through here. Now, next week, I already know Steve Kerr and Kamau are coming back to help us culminate a 6-month anniversary or 5-month anniversary of the work we're doing. We're going to have some WNBA players coming through. We're going to have Soul Development coming through. And we're also going to have Vanita Gupta, who was one of the former assistant attorney generals of the Department of Justice, who now leads the Leadership Conference for Civil Rights. She's coming through to talk more to us about voting, and she has a great toolkit that is coming out. So every week here on out, we're going to talk about voting. We're going to talk about mask and arts and related activism. We're going to put it all together and do some great work. And I just want to appreciate all y'all that keep donating. And thank you, Susie. I'm telling you, you have been a great comrade, friend, and we not done with you. So we want you to keep on cooking and keep on working and keep on rocking with us until the wheels fall off. We may have Mike Hill. You know Mike Hill? Yeah. So Mike and Cynthia are coming through next week too, I think. So
it's a good show next week.
Yeah, we got a great show. I mean, we got to figure out how to dip bob and weave everybody in, but it should be pretty good. And we'll keep integrating you in as your schedule permits. Great. Tell everybody on the way out, you are doing some important work. I know your real life job is helping to anchor the Rich Eisen show.
Well, I still have to prop my husband up. I got to make sure that he gets a break. I still will. Steve and I were talking about it recently. I still go back to the NBA and do some work there. I'll still sit in and host the Rich Eisen show. But the most important stuff I'm doing right now, aside from developing television, is working with Gabby Giffords and Mark Kelly. That's really it. I work on gun violence prevention almost full time, because that's how we met. And it's until this election is over with, it's a little bit on the back burner. So I will do whatever I can to get this ticket elected. I'm working with Amy McGrath in Kentucky. I'm working with Mark Kelly in Arizona, and I'm supporting Sarah Gideon in Maine. And once this election is back, I am back attacking that assault weapons ban, trying to get it back on the floor. Because to me, there's nothing more important than taking some of those weapons of mass destruction off the streets and out of my kids' schools and out of your kids' schools and out of kids' schools across the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The great Susie Schuster, she's a warrior for justice, y'all. She's using her platform and her relationships to help us literally save lives in lots of different spaces. So thanks. And we'll have you back, and you'll bring Rich. Maybe we'll have you and Rich as guests. We can watch y'all two play off each other. That'd be amazing.
I would love that. I would love it.
All right, everybody. Well, God bless. Listen, stay safe. All of you that are watching and are enduring this terrible season of both COVID, the fires, the tornadoes and tropical storms that are coming down in southern Florida. Everyone, please be gentle with yourself. Pace yourself. Don't let the market, your jobs, or your finances put yourself at risk. We can rebuild everything as long as we have ourselves. Wash your hands, wear a mask, keep being generous to one another. We'll see you around the way. Pastor Mike signing off with the great Susie Schuster. Say goodbye, Susie.
Bye, guys.
All right. God bless everybody.